Hello, all. Good evening. Welcome to the fourth session now uh, in our teaching writing series. And here we are going to be talking about teaching persuasive writing. So, before we go ahead and talk about it, I hope there are more people joining because I have something which is related to what was discussed yesterday. So just a reminder, participate and kind of lighten up a little bit. Don't need to be very serious today, especially with persuasive writing. We'll talk about ads and things. So it'll be a fun session. Let's make it fun. Our plan, uh, as usual, is that first we'll talk about the use of persuasion. Where do we use persuasion? We'll talk about the steps of persuasive writing. We'll talk about how to teach organization and how to provide motivation. Now, that might seem a little out of place. That is because for those who have joined only today and haven't been in the previous sessions, I had given a survey, kind of a poll, where teachers, the attendees actually voted on what are the biggest challenges when it comes to teaching writing. So as a result, I got a few different challenges that people face. I have kind of dealt with two earlier, and today I'm dealing with two others. So this is not only about telling you how to teach, it's also about kind of discussing how it will go ahead, and how to use the resources we have to the best of our abilities. So we have a small game which I was hoping there'll be more people, then it'll be more fun to play. All right, we will play regardless. I hope to have some participation. Okay, basically what I want at least one of you to do, we have like 4 participants now. Okay, I give you the option, either you can do this or I can give you a two truths and a lie. So basically you're going to tell me 3 statements about yourself out of which 2 are truths and 1 is a lie. You make the statements as convincing as possible so that I will be convinced that what you're telling me is the truth. So it is my responsibility or the responsibility of all the other participants to then figure out which one is the lie. So would you like to share or do you want me to share? Please tell me in the chat. We are still getting a few more participants. So hopefully I get a few who are a little more participative. I can see some of you are driving, some of you are still working. I'm sorry if I'm putting a lot of pressure. All right. I think we can do this as a final activity once we are done with the entire session. Sorry. All right, then we'll start with the session itself. So let's talk about persuasion and where it is used. Now, often we think that persuasive writing means it has to be like in a debate or in an argument. It's not necessary. We in fact, probably the one that you see most is advertisements. And I think all of us have seen ads, right? And there are a lot of, recently we have seen a lot of, major problems happening where ads are making claims that are tall claims which cannot be proved. That is basically them trying to persuade you, right? There are also political speeches where you see the same thing, that there are these like how they say, right, that every 5 years politicians come and tell you, okay, these are the things that we are going to change, But the things don't change, because if they change, then they don't have a thing to fight the election by, right? So it's almost like that. Then there are academic debates. So where in school or in any college setting, something like that, where you see academic debates, and then obviously even in your daily conversation. So technically, even if you are just sitting at home and your child comes to you and says, I need a raise in my pocket money, and these are the 5 reasons why, that is a persuasive speech the child is making, correct? So those are the uses of persuasion that you see in day-to-day life. You also do need to keep in mind, we are talking about teaching persuasion, right? So we need to keep in mind that sorry, you need to keep in mind that when you're talking about persuasion with your children, there are certain steps that they need to follow. So I would suggest you could share this with the students as well. If you want, you can take a screenshot, because these are the things that you need to keep in mind. There are a few more places where I'll say that, yeah, you can take screenshot if you need. So first step to any argument that you're making, any persuasion or argument that you're making, would be to plan and organize what you're writing. You might not need a plan for your story, you have it all in your mind. But for a persuasive speech or a persuasive writing, absolutely necessary. The planning is absolutely necessary. Focus on the points, the counterpoints. Now, let me give you that with an example. Suppose I want to say that, I feel that every school should have uniform. There shouldn't be any schools without uniforms, correct? Now, this is my perspective. But before I make the arguments about it, I need to make sure that the arguments from the other side are also taken into consideration. That way, I can be sure that all the arguments that I am making, I am confident about my points, and I also have arguments or rebuttal to the counterpoints to be made by the other side. Moreover, what will happen is we'll ask questions, we'll find evidence, we'll analyze the information given to us, we will kind of preempt the counter argument, saying that, okay, this is what they are going to say. Suppose one of the arguments, counter arguments could be that, yeah, you're saying that everybody should wear uniform, but then that means that parents have to spend that extra amount of money, right? You to buy a uniform. So then I could counter argue that no, government schools provide uniforms, like money for the uniforms, or they provide the uniforms as well. So that way I already preempted the argument and created a counter argument for it. So this is your planning and organizing section. Now you're starting to write. Now, when you're starting to write, you might have a lot of ideas, but you need to put it down in a way where it becomes persuasive. Now, what are the techniques that will be used? I'll talk about it in a moment. But these techniques, I'll give you an example. I could say that I want to give food to this beggar, or I could say, oh, look at that beggar, I can count his ribs, he looks pathetic, I really should feed him. This created emotion in you. That evoking emotion is a persuasive technique. It might kind of sound like manipulation, but if you think about it, manipulation is when you use your persuasive techniques for negative cause, correct? After you write, you also self-evaluate or peer evaluate, depending on what your teacher has told you. All these are instructions you'll be giving your students. Then you review. As a teacher, you will be giving them a checklist saying that, again, this depends on the child's level. So for younger children, you might say, check your spellings, check your punctuations, check your grammar, things like that. For older kids, you might say, okay, check if you've used all persuasive techniques, check if you have left any sentence unfinished, check if you have used strong vocabulary. These could be the things that you're looking for. And obviously recheck the format. This is very important, because we see tiny changes in the format every year. So we kind of need to make sure we are sticking with the correct format that is being expected from us by the government, right? So make sure that that happens as well. Now, let's address the challenges. Like I said, after going through the poll that I shared on day one as well as yesterday, on day one, I found 2 points to be discussed. So, that was providing feedback. One of them was providing feedback, so we addressed it yesterday. But today, I want to share two things that were not the more like highest point taker, but I still want to address everybody's issues, right? So the challenges that I found were, number one, organization. That is, children are not able to organize their thoughts properly. So we need help with teaching them organization. Second one was motivation, as in they are just doing it for the sake of doing it. They're just doing it for the marks. They don't feel the need to go that extra mile, especially with languages. So let's talk about both of these one by one. First, we'll talk about organization. So in order to teach organization, you need to give them the tools to organize the thoughts. So in the beginning, you might need to give them something like this. We talked about this tool even in the first expository writing essay. So if you look at this is basically an essay outline, correct? So when you give them this as a tool, what will happen is they are able to immediately see, okay, I have an idea of how I'm going to introduce. Suppose the topic is schools should start later during winter seasons, correct? Now, if this is your topic, an introduction could be, winters are difficult. Nobody wants to wake up early on a cold winter morning. That is your hook. That is your opening. But then directly, if the child has planned that, okay, after this, I'll start talking about the reasons why this should be, then the child looks at this format and then realizes, wait, I don't have a context. So I should maybe give a context that, okay, the school should open later because children wake up later, and as a result, they're probably not completely woken up when they go to school. That could be a claim he's making. So there, you go back to the context and say that maybe teenagers don't tend to sleep very early, and as a result, for adolescents, it's difficult to wake up early. So these are the kinds of things that they might think of. Now, this is nothing but, it's almost like saying that a lot, I think there are only too many in our teachers, amongst the teachers who are attending. So I think this example will make sense to most of us. When you enter a new house, after you get married, you enter the new house, everything is new to you, right? So you look around and find out things, and then because you have the context of your kitchen, or you have the context of your house, you know how to arrange this new house. Even if it's a blank slate, okay, there should be a TV, there should be a sofa. These are the things that we need, correct? It's almost like that. We are giving them a format by which they will kind of look at their thoughts and say, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. Oh, this space seems to be empty. What should I put here? Right? It's like decor. Now, coming to organizing your thoughts. You have already organized your thoughts. You have your thoughts clear. But then these thoughts, you know how there's a difference between, they say that, oh, this person has great oratorship. That's nothing that the person who's born with, right? It's something that they learned over time. So it is our responsibility as teachers to provide that to the students. And how do we do that? These are the few persuasive techniques. I will not go over everything because I'm sure you also know these, but I will maybe point out a few. One that I really like to point out is the use of figurative language, because often most teachers think that figurative language only means figures of speech which are used in poetry. But if you think about all of the taglines for ads, they are all figurative language, right? If you think about kurkure teda hai par mera hai, because of the rhyme you immediately remember it. The jingle with all our childhood jingles like Vico turmeric or BTEX cream, things like this, right? Because there's a tune to it, you immediately remember it. Then many a times, if I say something like, um, of course, our party has achieved this. Because I've started by saying, of course, what I've done is I made sure that I made it an assertion. I'm not giving you a chance to say, no, your party hasn't done this. So that assertion makes sure that the point is put across without making much of an effort. Correct? It becomes an interesting. So when you listen to these things with that attention, that frame of mind, saying that, oh wait, what am I thinking? What are these people trying to achieve? When we think of it that way, it becomes a great exercise in kind of figuring out, okay, this is the persuasive technique being used here. And I would really recommend you do this with your children as well. Maybe show them a few ads. Even print ads have taglines, right? Show them a few ads and tell them, okay, figure out what is it that is being done in this ad. So if you think about, say, Apple, they often the ad is structured in such a way that they are trying to basically tell you that this is a niche product. Not everybody will have an Apple Watch. So if you have an Apple Watch, then you're a cut above the rest. So what are they doing? They're basically creating bias in your mind that, oh, we are special, right? So those kind of things you could do. And it becomes a way for them to notice. And once they notice, they will start using it in their own writing as well. Like I told you, this with persuasive techniques, there's a lot of writing that you will see, and at the same time there'll also be these techniques being used in speeches like debates and the like. Now coming to motivation, so we talked about how to help them organize their thoughts by giving them a little scaffolding in the beginning, and then maybe telling them, okay, these are the techniques that exist, see what works best for you. And remember, there are no right or wrong techniques. It's all about context. It's all about what one person, one child is kind of more comfortable with or confident with. So somebody who is typically happens to be a person who's, very emotional. When they use emotion, when they use pathos, it'll be far more effective and rather than somebody else who's a little cut and dry kind of person. They might use a little more of logic and numbers and things like that. Correct? All right. Now coming to motivation. Now this is a problem that we face as language teachers, because many a times the thought process, especially in India, is that like we need science, we need mathematics, and that's pretty much it. Correct? So often the question is like, why should we bother? Like, let me just get this done till 10th grade and then I will never look back at language. Correct? Which, to be fair, considering the way our society has been structured, we can't blame the children for that, right? But the way you make sure that they understand is, first of all, you need to provide the motivation that this is not something you're doing for my sake. This is not something you're doing for the sake of that whatever percentage that it holds, weightage that it holds in your final report. It's something you're doing because you're going to learn something out of it, and you're going to earn the sense of satisfaction through it. And once that child, it's like they say, right, the tiger has tasted the blood. Once that child tastes that feeling of that sense of achievement after writing something, you will never have to motivate them again. So there are two stages here. One is getting them started. I feel like this is the difficult bit, where they don't know how to do it. So they are like, oh God, why do we have to do this? That kind of a thing. So here, I would say, this is a controversial statement, but I feel that this works a lot. I always like to give them prompts from trending or viral topics. Now, a lot of people might feel that this is like kind of cheapening the language. I would argue that this will become, again, sorry to use negative terms, but it's like a gateway drug. You are giving them something which they are interested in. Once they get into writing, then you give them more serious topics, more topics that are relevant to the present, things like that. The reason why we need to do that is in order to make sure that they are interested in the topic itself. Now, let me give you an example. I once gave my children, again, persuasive writing, because they were supposed to write about why, uh, like various topics related to school. That was the task given. But the textbook did not specify what topic. So I had given them a task where I said, okay, I want you to write a persuasive essay on any topic of your choice, as long as it is related to school. And I will not judge. If you see the last point, it says, don't judge rebellious thoughts. Because most of the times, all the rebellion that adolescents have in them, if they put them down on paper, they're going to be less rebellious in your class. So it's actually better for you if you don't get too judgmental. So one of the best essays that I actually read there was why we should not have assemblies. And believe me, that boy who'd never participated in class, he wasn't very vocal. He was good at writing, but not like, he was not the best at writing. He was not the best in class, but apparently he had something against assemblies, probably because in assembly you have to talk, and he didn't like talking much. But the beautiful points that he had put forward, again, not that we are going to stop assembly because one child said that, but he said, you could use that time in more teaching and learning. You could use that time for extracurricular activities which do not involve talking. He had talked about how assembly is sometimes a little religious, which is not okay in a secular place like a school. Those are very valid points, right? So here, at when you read something like this, we should not become judgmental saying that, oh, this is not something I agree with. It's not about whether you agree or not. It's about whether these are valid points, whether these points have been made in a way where good persuasive techniques have been used. And believe me, he had done a great job. I wish I had that because it was handwritten. I don't have a copy or anything, but it was a great essay. I would have loved to share it with you. One more point I have made there is, for adolescents, like I said, give them the option of choosing their own topic. What this does is, they feel that, oh, I have chosen this topic, so I cannot fail this topic now. When I say fail this topic, I mean like let down the topic. So they will make sure that they choose the topic that they really love or are passionate about, and then they will eventually do better at it. And definitely also provide them options in case, okay, in case you can't think of a topic, here is a list of 5 topics that you could write from. That way, the children who are not very passionate about anything as such, they also have something to choose from. So give them that different, like we were talking about yesterday, different, tiered kind of teaching. That is, again, all of these things are interconnected. All right. Now we have got them started. They are all motivated, but then we need to keep them going as well, right? So here, I would say, make your school magazine aspirational. So what I mean by that is, often school magazine kind of falls upon us as language teachers, and what we do is, at the last moment, I have seen this happening in some schools, where at the last moment the teacher just says to the best writer in each class, okay, I need an article by tomorrow, I need an essay by tomorrow, I need a poem by tomorrow. Don't do that. Tell them that whatever we are doing in class, even that, if you've done a real good job, you could polish it a little more, and being published in the school magazine would be your reward. Make it aspirational and it will work. Correct. Another thing is, let's kind of get on with the times, change with the times. So what you could also do is start a school blog. What will happen with this is that it'll become an interesting thing for children. Okay, ours is not that old type of school. Our school has a blog, and if my thing gets published on the blog, that will be such a proud moment for me. And believe me, they will share with all their friends, with all their family, and you will get so many aspiring writers, just because of the fact that your work is not going to be in a magazine which will stay in my house, but on a blog which they can share the link to with others. Correct? Then for older kids, I would say encourage them to stand up for what they believe in. So again, the passion comes in here. Once they have gained the basic skills of writing, then you can start telling them that you can use the skill for the good of society. So if you think about it, what what did Greta Thunberg do? She was passionate about her perspective of how the world should be from the perspective of global warming or climate change, correct? So keeping that in mind, because she's so passionate, in spite of having her own challenges, she did not stay back. She stood up for what she believed in, right? So when you're passionate about what you're writing, then they will keep going. You will not have to keep motivating them that, oh, you need to do this as well. Like, get this done with. Why are you taking so much time? You won't have to do that, because now they're writing about something that they're passionate about. Another thing would be to partner with other schools for writing exchanges. So, I'm sure we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? So what's wrong if they have a nice little writing convention, kind of, where maybe a 2-day convention, children get together, other schools, they either, like, maybe one day of learning different kinds of writing, another day of workshopping creative writing. It'll be a great way to interact with other schools, and it'll become a little competitive, so everybody will be putting forward their best foot, right? That's a great thing to do. Also, you could organize, I'm saying monthly, I guess it's a little aspirational there, but textile talks at least once a year you can always have, right? Where they prepare all year for it, they choose a topic of their choice, and then they present it in front of the whole school, and you can record it. So that, again, I'm sure a lot of schools now have their own YouTube channel, so you can put it up there. And again, such a great way to promote these things, correct? So this is how you can motivate them. Now, can you suggest some interesting implementation ideas for persuasive or argumentative writing? I have a few, but I want you all to share before I do. Anyone? I'm looking for familiar names, but I think it's only Lata ma'am that I'm recognizing.
Yes, yes. No, I think we can also, encourage them to write about cyber security and things like that.
Nowadays,
That
it's
will
a
be
very
great.
important topic.
And about good touch, bad touch, like I think you already mentioned in other things, because
Correct.
then it becomes very convincing and they'll put in their personal experiences as well.
Absolutely.
And I think it works at both levels for us, at school level and at personal level for children.
Correct. And
If
then you are kind of blending two topics there, right? You're talking about a topic that you need to teach anyway, and then you are blending in persuasion within that. Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Rajni, ma'am, anything you want to add?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Do you have any suggestions?
Sorry, ma'am. अभी guest time है इसलिए बैठी हूँ. Sorry,
No
ma'am.
problem, no problem, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
कोई बात नहीं. All right, so I have a few suggestions. I hope these help. So one of the things that I don't know if you are aware. Do you know how, as language teachers, I'm sure you've all heard about Uncle Tom's Cabin, right? So the writer of Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe, famously she had remarked that her father, um, he used to do this where at the dinner table every night he would say something which would obviously be not true or obviously be inaccurate, morally incorrect or legally wrong, and then he would say, this is what I believe, you changed my mind. And I love that tag that he would give. In one of her interviews she had said this, and I loved that. And that's why I had this thing where at the end of the class, if I had a little bit of time, I would say something absolutely ridiculous, and then I would say, okay, change my mind. And that becomes, and after a point children know that they're just doing it to make sure that they are able to put forth their points, in a strong manner. But it's a great way to kind of make it interesting for them. So change my mind challenge, principal for a day. Here they make proposals, like in Nayak he was chief minister for a day. We'll make principal for a day and then say, okay, what are the proposals you will make? So these would be things that they probably want to do. Like I said, somebody not wanting an assembly, or somebody else saying no uniform, somebody else saying maybe students will not wear uniform, but all teachers should wear uniform. But whatever they say, they need to give me a reason for it. They need to justify their point. And again, like I said, they need to persuade you. There could also be a social media court where there are various different things that they're saying, and there'll be a jury panel. Then that time you're kind of stepping back. This would be after a few months of them trying. Then they have already understood where to draw the line, saying that okay, this was not a good argument, or this is a circular argument, doesn't make sense. So there'll be a jury panel who will decide whether what they're saying makes sense or not. Sorry. And then finally there could also be, again, kind of viral trending topic, which is Shark Tank. So you can give them ads. I talked to you about, right? In ads there's always this persuasion that you see. So there could be a Mission Impossible kind of ad where you're giving them a product which is technically unsellable, something like underwater hair dryer, or like literally like selling ice to an Eskimo, but your square wheels maybe. But they have to convince you that no, this is a great product, you should invest in this. So how do they do that? Again, what persuasive techniques do they use? How smart are they with it? Correct. Now, keeping all this in mind, again, by the way, if anyone has anything else to share, great. Else, now I have a task for you. You convince me, yeah, comb to a bald person. You convince me that you learned something today. That is your persuasive task. After which, if we can, I would love to do the task that I had skipped in the beginning because there were like very few participants. Can you all share at least one point that you learned today?
Jyoti ma'am, I think it's how well you convince others and how you put forward your point. It doesn't matter what you are saying, but I think the first thing you should do is you should be yourself convinced with it. And with you using the right English language And like you said, the figure of speech, we can make anything sellable, and we can put forward any point and, convince others that we are correct and the others are not. And I think just depends on how well we learn these. I think these are very important things which our children have to learn. And not only for English speaking, I think for every profession which they are going to put, to lead in this world today, they actually need to know. And we have to sell ourselves, as
Yeah.
teachers in interviews
And
and
this is
everything. I
both
think we
ways.
can.
Two things that I really liked about your this thing. One is that you mentioned the fact that it's not only about um, language. It's about persuasion as a skill
Yes,
because of two things. One, you need to be able to sell yourself, but also you need to be aware if somebody is trying to manipulate you as well, like all the ads that I was talking about, right? um,
absolutely.
Correct. Anyone else?
We can also have the fake news, you have to identify news which are fake, and
Correct. Actually,
especially
that
social
was
media.
not news technically, but what I had planned in the beginning was two truths and a lie, where either one of the participants or me, I wanted to discuss, how to make your lie convincing enough that the other person feels, yeah, that seems like the truth. Correct. Um, I am hoping that there'll be somebody else sharing something else. Anyone else who wants to share something? I can see quite a few people who were like outside. There were a few people driving. There was at least one person driving. There was one person who was in school, I think. So I don't want to force anyone either. All right, then that's it for today. Uh, Tomorrow will be our last session, and any doubts that you have, even those who are driving, those who are busy, cannot participate right now. If any of you have any doubts, you can just drop them in the chat as soon as the session begins tomorrow. And I will address all of the questions, doubts at the end of our session tomorrow, because tomorrow is creative writing. So I'll take a little lesser time. I'll address all the doubts at the end. And what I want you to do is, even if you don't really pay attention at that time, there will be the recording which will be uploaded to YouTube. So you can always look at it later, right? So might as well get your doubts solved in the free session, correct? All right. So the about the our regular announcement that we always make, which is that in case you are interested in getting a certificate for this session, I'm just trying to type out the number as well. So in case you're trying to, if you're interested in getting a certificate for this session, then what you have to do is you have to send 50 rupees. That is only for the certificate. The session itself was free. But if in case you're interested in getting a certificate, you can procure a certificate by sending 50 rupees for this.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't know
Yes,
who.
ma'am. है
Okay.
ना?
Neeta?
मैम जो कल सर्टिफिकेट था वो
हम्म।
अलग होगा या ये जो आज मंगाएंगे या सेम होगा?
नहीं नहीं, अलग होगा, क्योंकि हर सेशन अलग रहता है ना. कल हमने आज हमने परसुएजन की बात की, कल हमने नरेशन की बात की.
ओके मैम, थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू.
वेलकम. हाँ, सो आई वाज सेइंग कि ये नंबर भेज रही हूँ मैं, उस पे आप अगर 50 रुपीज भेज देंगे तो आपको सर्टिफिकेट भी मिल जाएगा. सेम नंबर है, इन केस इफ यू अटेंडेड यस्टरडे, आई थिंक यू हैड अटेंडेड यस्टरडे, है ना? तो you can send on this number and then send a screenshot as well as your full name to this number. And that's about it. Have a nice day, everyone. And hopefully tomorrow, since it's the last session, we'll have a few more participants, a few more inputs from you all. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.